Hello and welcome to the next Inside the Studio. I'm Pete.
And I'm Dan.
And we're from Steadfast Collective. Inside the Studio is our weekly video series where we're breaking down what it's like to run an agency. So let's jump straight into it.
Yep, so this week we're going to be talking about conferences.
Conferences, exactly.
Yeah, so you've been to one or two of them.
I've been to a fair few conferences in my time. And the reason we decided to speak about conferences is because we have had a lot of success winning work at conferences. We've also been to some really good ones, some really not so good ones. They're quite expensive.
But they are worthwhile.
They are worthwhile. It's picking the right one. And I think over the last fair few years, we've honed our skill in picking which conferences are the ones to go to and which ones to stay clear of. So we're just going to jump into that and just chat about conferences and about why we attend, what to do when we're there, and then how we can, make most use of that conference budget over the year.
Yeah, so we want to just talk about maximising basically attending conferences, getting the best out of it.
Exactly.
So we've been to a few this year.
Yeah, so 2019 we've been to, what have we been to this year? So I started with New Adventures.
Yeah, we went to Congregation
of Inspiration.
Yeah, and then we also went to Laravel Live UK.
Yep, and I went to WXG with Josh and Sarah.
Yeah, so let's break them down a little bit. So there's a few different categories there.
Yep.
So let's start with, I guess, Laravel Live, because that one's a little bit out of centre of the podcast. So that was quite a devy sort of conference, one for developers and sort of more technically minded people. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about why we went to that and why we sent the team there.
Sure.
So that conference in particular, we're trying to get out of it basically maximum learning for our team. So myself went, Andre went, and Josh, who are all developers. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to try and get the most out of it in terms of our learning and trying to pick up some new sort of techniques and skills.
Yeah, 100%.
It wasn't so much from like a biz dev point of view. It was more of a sort of technical, like, let's see how we can improve the team and go from that side of things.
It was a learning kind of conference.
Yeah.
Where in January I went to New Adventures, and this kind of probably lines up as well with WXG. It was more of a, and also the Congregation of Inspiration, which is a Holly & Co. run event. Yeah. They're slightly more inspirational conferences. You feel pretty good walking away from them. There's a lot of space and time for networking, a real range of people. You don't just get the same people in the room. They're from different backgrounds. Yeah. And those sort of conferences we find really useful in meeting interesting people, whether they be freelancers who we can partner with or possible new people we can work with.
Yeah.
So we've really enjoyed the conferences we've been to this year. I would say all of them I would attend again. They've all been excellent. And just been worthwhile going to. Yeah,
so I think this leads quite well into like one of our first points, which is sort of go to conferences that are outside your comfort zone. So for me personally, I've got quite a big dev background, so Laravel Live made a lot of sense. That was really good for me. But I didn't really meet a lot of people there, and I wasn't really forced to interact and sort of meet new people. Whereas from like a biz dev point of view, or sort of expanding out your network, it's good to go to things that you might not necessarily be interested in normally, or something that might not necessarily be involved in your day-to-day role. So going to Congregation of Inspiration was really good because there was people there that are sort of starting their own businesses and are doing their own sort of line of work. People with different backgrounds, different ideas, and it was really good to sort of get to talk to other people and expand my network that way. And that was the same with New Adventures. So New Adventures is there's a lot of designers there. There's a real range of people, but there's a lot of designers. It was good to be in a room of not just developers, because it was interesting to meet a real range of people. And I think that is that first point, isn't it? It's sometimes your most useful conferences will be ones which aren't the obvious ones. Because going to the same conferences, the same technical conferences especially, you'll meet the same people who do similar things to you, where if you're able to go to a conference outside of your normal niche, you'll meet a new bunch of people and you can bring an interesting perspective to them as well. So we've personally met some of our clients through this sort of method, and it's not really been like it's not really been focused on trying to necessarily get new clients, but it's just about talking to people while you're there.
And this brings us on to our point two. So
point two, yeah, exactly.
Our point two being that when in our experiences of being at conferences, it's so much, it's really important that you go and you're willing to talk to people and you're willing to share stories with them. It's frustrating meeting people at conferences who just want to give you a business card, tell you what they do, and kind of leave you alone. Our most fruitful times at conferences have been where we've been really open, honest with people, chat to them about, what's your story? Why did you start what you do? Why are you a freelancer? Those sort of questions. And that's why I find often the best conference networking happens outside of the conference. So it's either queuing up for the conference, grabbing a beer afterwards. Some of the conferences have extra events around it, such as football or running, and that's some of the best networking I've done, because you're not kind of in a small, cramped, loud room.
It feels more natural as well when you've got time to talk to people about sort of things that actually interest them, or have a bit more time to talk to people outside of a normal crammed environment. It feels more natural and it feels better. It also means you can have a proper conversation instead of it feeling like you're just giving someone a business card. I think this comes back to sort of last week's episode where we were talking about providing value as well to clients. Those sort of opportunities are great when you're talking to people with their own businesses or their own ideas. Just that little bit of conversation is a great time to provide a little bit of value and start building that relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And so we've got point one, we've got maybe try conferences outside of your normal natural circle. Number two would be, have conversations with people, open up, tell stories, don't just kind of throw your business card around. And then point three would be, it's important that when you leave the conference, you don't just finish networking.
You've got to follow up. And you've got a really good system for this. I call it a system. It makes it sound really clinical and thing, but you do a really good job of making sure that you keep in contact with people. So you have a Trello board, right?
I have a Trello board. So I have a really terrible memory. So what I do is I have a Trello board of basically names of people that I've met who are interesting over the years. And I just set times on those cards just to remind me to get in touch with them. And potentially, if I've only met the person once, I might write a couple of things about them. So, John, I met him at WXG. He runs this agency. And then in 6 months, I'll kind of check in and be like, how's it going? How's your summer been? Those kind of things. Just because it's important that I remember to check in with people. And if I don't have a system, I'll just forget. Sometimes you do have more naturally flowing kind of conversations, which you don't need to have that, but I find the prompt helpful because
it's just a nice reminder, isn't it? And it means that you can come back and start building that relationship more. It might be that it's come around a year again and you're going to the same conference again together and you can meet up for a drink.
Yeah, for sure. So I booked my New Adventures conference ticket for January. And I've already started planning who I'm going to have curry with the night before. Because I met a bunch of people last year, building those relationships and kind of see where they go. And I'm excited.
Nice.
It's really good. So what would be so we've got those kind of 3 points. What would be one conference that you feel that you would be able to go to? Like, what conference would you like to go to next year where you would like to kind of exercise those things?
So I'd like to find one that's more outside of where I'm normally at. So one that I really want to go to is like a Laravel conference, like a big Laravel one in either Europe or America. But that's from a developer point of view, and a bit selfishly, I just want to go and meet loads of people that I talk to online.
Yeah, for sure.
But from sort of a more getting out there and doing different things, I just want to, even more local events, I think. I want to try and start pushing into going and meeting more people around the area and just expanding the circle that way, people that I might bump into or that sort of thing.
Nice. I would love to go to, there's a conference called MicroConf, and they have one in Europe, one in America, and it's mainly focused on, I think I'll get this right, non-VC backed startups.
Oh, cool.
So the idea is that it's kind of bootstrapped startups, and it's interesting to hear lots of stories, and it's basically kind of an inspirational kind of thing. But one of our clients actually goes every year to the European one, and they say they get so much value from attending it.
Yeah.
So that looks good. really expensive.
Is that?
It's also normally somewhere in Prague or somewhere really out of the way, but it does look excellent. And I think that's the thing when you're thinking about your conference budget, either as an agency owner or an employee or kind of whatever field you're in, is it's weighing up this is actually quite an expensive thing. You've got to buy a ticket, food, maybe accommodation, travel, etc. And you've got somebody or a whole team out of the office, so that's a whole billable day, etc. So it's really weighing that up. I know one thing that agencies do, which we maybe are less great at, is when you come back from a conference, you can reshare what you know. So I know when we met Dan Chadwick of Rare Loop at Laravel Live, he then wrote a blog post afterwards with kind of all of his notes, just kind of trying to explain to his team especially, but other people, what he'd learned from that, so we can take his, the cost of that and kind of
help spread it out across the team so it's valuable for everyone.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, really smart. And it's something that we should probably start thinking about more, I think.
Yeah.
It's good. Great. So let's just wrap up the 3 points and then we'll close.
So point number 1 is to go to conferences that are outside of your normal circle. What's point number 2, Pete? Point number
2 is that when you are there, you need to be sharing stories, chatting to people. Don't be afraid. Get stuck in.
Yeah. And point number 3 is to follow up. We've said this before, we'll say it again. Keep in contact with people that you meet, and make sure that you're keeping in touch, because those relationships need to flourish and sort of grow.
100%.
Yeah.
This has been fun. Great. So that was episode 2 of Inside the Studio. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You can follow along on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
You can watch it as a video on YouTube
or social,
on our
Twitter,
or follow us on social media, and there'll be all the good bits in there.
Great.
It'll be fun.
Awesome.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.